Taurus, hello, Amanda here. Welcome to Unseen Hands Healing. This is going to be your shift reading for the month of April. So we are looking at the shape you are shifting out of this month, the shape you're shifting into, and what that shape shift looks and feels like along the way. So Taurus, before we start pulling cards, the visual that came through for me as I was sitting with your energy and meditating before this reading is staircases and escalators. It was like I was on this escalator and it felt like I was going up. But then when I looked around me, I saw a ton of other different escalators going in all these different directions and like staircases going in these different directions. And it sort of felt to me like an Escher painting, if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, definitely look that up. I think it's Escher. Because that's exactly the feeling, was these like endless staircases and escalators all going in different directions. And so as I thought I was moving up the escalator, but once I looked around and got my bearings, I realized I actually didn't know what direction I was moving in, because there were staircases on the ceiling and on the ground and going sideways. And so it was difficult for me to orient myself in such a surreal landscape. Very interesting visual coming through here. So Taurus, we're going to pull for your shift now. I will also say that a card I have out on the table sort of presiding over or in the background of this reading is the card that came out from the Mary L Tarot in the reading, the collective reading that I've done previously. So, go back a few videos in the history and you'll see a reading for this global pandemic that we're all experiencing. And if you go to directly in the timestamps to the Taurus part of the reading, the guide from the Mary L Tarot that came out for you to guide you through this pandemic is the King of Discs, the King of Pentacles, which is definitely earth energy, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. So this is very much in alignment with your energy. So just so you know, this image of the King of Pentacles, an incredibly like grounded, driven energy that clearly in this card is lying in repose and enjoying the fruits of the earth. This is part of this reading as well, because we can't ignore the fact that this pandemic is front and center in the month of April 2020. So here we go. Let's pull some cards for your shift. We're looking at the Spolia Tarot here, and we're going to start by pulling a card for what is the shape that you are shifting out of, Taurus, in the month of April. Give you a couple of on-camera shuffles here. Interesting. The Hierophant just sort of popped out of the shuffle at me, which is typically associated with Taurus energy. So there we are. We're right in alignment with your energy and ready to go. Okay, Taurus, here we go. What is the shape that Taurus is shifting out of in April 2020? We got the Chariot. Shifting out of the Chariot, the vehicle that moves you forward, shifting out of this energy. Okay, what is the shape Taurus is shifting into in the month of April? What is the shape shift for Taurus? What is Taurus shifting into? We got the Three of Cups. Very interesting shape shift here. It almost looks like the Chariot is pulling you towards the Three of Cups. The Three of Cups card, we've got three people dancing in community together, dancing in celebration, in friendship, in kinship. And the Chariot is the vehicle that moves you towards that sense of community, towards that sense of togetherness. Three of Cups is a very interesting card to receive during this pandemic, this time when we are being asked to socially distance for the greater public health, and of course the health of ourselves and and our loved ones as well. And so there's this like emotional togetherness and sense of emotional community that is still available to us at this time. As many of us already know, we're finding other ways of virtually connecting, and maybe even feeling a sense of togetherness with our family that that is extra intense during this time of major unknown and fear and confusion. This chariot is pulling you towards it. This is your shapeshift. We're going to have to get some more cards, I think, to clarify what exactly that journey is, like how you get to this sense of celebration and togetherness. There's something here too. I'm looking at the Three of Cups. And I'm just looking at these like evergreen, or I think they're evergreen, maybe pine, some version of pine, but they're like these three trees. The three trees in the background here, they almost look like herbs, but they're actually part of trees. 3 trees, 3 flowers, 3 cups. I don't know. I don't know what that means yet. Let's pull more cards. Okay, back to the spolia. We're pulling 3 cards for what this shift looks like. How is this chariot moving you towards the 3 of Cups this month? What does the shapeshift look like and feel like for Taurus? Okay, 2 cards just flew out. Let's get 1 more. Whoop, okay, we got 2 more. Ooh, interesting, Capricorn energy. Yeah, whoa, a lot of Capricorn energy. This is real interesting. Hold on. Let me sit with this for a second. It's interesting too, because the guide that came out from the Mary L is the King of Discs, and I typically associate this, while it is definitely associated with all earth signs, including Taurus, I typically peg this more as Capricorn energy. There's a real okay, let me just show you what I'm looking at. This is a really intense spiritual message, Taurus. Stay with me. You've got the King of Wands, the Devil card, the Capricorn card, and the High Priestess. I want to first draw your attention to the fact that the card that's associated with Capricorn energy in the tarot is the Devil. And so we've got essentially double Capricorn energy right at the center of your reading, triple if you include the King of Discs. And then flanking this Capricorn energy on either side, we've got this King of Wands and the High Priestess, 2 very different types of power. I think this reading is about power. Capricorn energy deals with power pretty intensely. Capricorn energy tends towards ambition, tends towards drive, but really it's so much about the embodiment of personal power when you're looking at Capricorn energy, and like how you walk through the world, through the material, tangible world in your power, and the deeper spiritual source that is the seat of that power, which is how I'm seeing the interplay, the dynamic between the King of Wands and the High Priestess. Let me just say this before I get into that. the overall thing that I'm seeing here, which is interesting given the initial visual that came through, is I'm actually seeing this chariot. So to me, in the tarot, the chariot is the vehicle that moves you to the next level of your life. It's preparing you for a level up in some way. And remember, when I first tuned into your energy, I felt you on this escalator, this up escalator. But then once I looked around me, I realized that I didn't know which direction I was actually moving in, but I just knew that I was moving on some sort of like automatic conveyor escalator. Okay, so here we have that movement showing through in the chariot, which is moving you to the next level of your life, which seems to be the Three of Cups. But the way that you get there is looking to me more like sort of an underworld journey, because we've got the devil energy, we've got the high priestess. These energies deal with like much deeper spiritual, psychological investigations, invitations maybe. And so it's almost like the chariot, in order to go up, you kind of gotta go down and sideways and over and up and around and over again through this like Kafka-esque, Escher, surreal journey, which, you know, I think this pandemic for most of us really feels like that. It does feel like we don't know which end is up and which end is down, and what to believe, and how this thing is moving, and where it's moving, and how it's transmitted, and where this is even leading us, and where we go. You know, it's like our whole world is topsy-turvy. And so I'm sort of seeing that as like this journey in April beginning, and I'm sure this is a much larger journey for you, not just April, but this is the message that's coming out in April as we begin this sort of underworld journey. And I say underworld because all of these cards feel like that to me. And what I mean by underworld, I'm not necessarily talking about like literal fires of hell or anything like that. But I am talking about this like journey into the subconscious, a journey into the deeper workings of your psyche, which is also interesting because the staircases in this like Escher painting that came through the visual, this is very much sort of a dream landscape, a surreal landscape, something that would come out of the subconscious, out of the deeper psyche. And so here we see that journey. It's like you start off as the King of Wands. To me, the King of Wands is this like very potent, powerful, almost emperor energy. It's like the emperor, the king sitting on his throne, going about power in a very external way, exercising power outside of themselves. You know, the King of Wands is like owns his personal power so strongly that he's able to like embody that by like sitting on the throne, moving from a place of fire, which is like pure drive and creativity and excitement, and like not being unafraid to blaze a new trail. There's a strong sense of confidence here. It's like the energy that it's carrying actually is really collective, because it's embodying this energy of sort of how masculinity has, and like masculine energy has, and patriarchal energy has walked its way through our world. It's like this is where we're starting from, and we are in this like largely masculine driven patriarchal society. So we start here. It's like the chariot first on the journey stops at the King of Wands and asks us to look at this kind of masculinity and this expression of masculinity and the ways that this expression is serving us as a society and the ways that it is not. And then of course for you, Taurus, personally, since this is your reading, first stop on this journey is the ways that this kind of masculinity and this masculine expression, patriarchal expression of power, lives and exists inside of you. And I just want to side note, that's not what the King of Wands always feels like to me, but it's what it's feeling like in this reading for you today. First, stop examining your own relationship to masculinity and patriarchy. That's stop number one. And then we go deeper. Stop number two. The devil. Really similar energy. It's sort of like having understood the ways that either masculine energy has usurped your personal power, or the expression of masculine energy coming from you has usurped the power of others, right? And I'm not saying that masculinity is only a usurper, but there is this, because the devil is showing this cycle of one being having power over a smaller being by consuming it and eating it. There's this cycle of consumption that is being illuminated here. And again, this is like such a larger collective message for all of us, as like certain things are happening through this pandemic that are really revealing to us of the ways that we as humans have just like essentially consumed the earth in the name of money and in the name of power. Capricorn, right? Capricorn as this pursuit of money, wealth, power out in the world. And we've got, at this time, a lot of planets in Capricorn doing some pretty major things. We've got Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. These like huge, slow-moving planets that are outer planets. They rule this more collective energy. They're all meeting up in Capricorn, I think, to really show us our own asses, to show us the ways that we have absolutely consumed and consumed and consumed this planet, and essentially have consumed ourselves in the process. Because I see this devil energy as like cycles of sabotage, self-sabotage. And so the ways that our consumption and our drive for power and authority over and dominion has actually caused us to eat our own selves in the process. So again, Taurus, it's sort of like, what is your relationship to this energy? Because this reading feels incredibly collective, which I had a suspicion these April shift readings would all, for each sign, be in some way very much connected to the collective, since what is happening to us right now globally connects us to humanity and how it has inhabited the earth more than ever. It's like the individual now more than ever is connected to the collective through, ironically, through this virus that is affecting all of us and spreading through the collective from individual to individual. I think what I didn't say earlier, which I started to say, was how this is illuminating the ways that we have consumed the earth. The canals in Venice are clear for the first time. You can see all the way to the bottom, because with social distancing and all of us staying at home, the pollution in the air and in the water is significantly and quickly reduced. And that right there is proof of the ways that our way of life is essentially eating the planet. And in turn, causing us to eat our own selves, because we are absolutely dependent on this planet for life. Okay? This is the journey. And then it continues with this Capricorn energy. Next stop on this like surreal freaking Escher trip is this Capricorn energy, our relationship to the pursuit of wealth and power, and where that pursuit comes from. it's like, it's not an inherently, in my opinion, it is not an inherently bad thing to want to pursue personal power and wealth and abundance. And it is not a bad thing to enjoy the fruits of earthly pleasures that are available to us on this earth. But it's like, where is that pursuit rooted in? Where is that coming from? What's the energetic drive behind it? Is it coming from this desire to sort of, I'm seeing this fire as just like, wow, this reading is so environmental. I wonder if I'm like speaking to someone who is an environmentalist or like an environmental activist out there, or if I'm just like speaking to where we all need to be thinking and focusing right now, which is like the environment and the earth. Okay, part of where we need to be focusing. I'm seeing this as like the consumption of fossil fuels and like the burning of oil or the burning of coal, you know, this like fire that then puts smoke out into the atmosphere, pollution out into the world. It's like, is this the root of our pursuit of personal wealth and abundance and growth? Or, and the final stop, which is where this whole journey, I think, is really leading, the final stop on this surreal trip is the High Priestess. Because I think there's an opportunity here for this kind of energy to be the root of our pursuits of power and abundance on the earth, in the physical earth plane. And what is this energy, the priestess energy? It is a very deep soul, even psychic at times, connection to the spiritual undercurrent. To me, this is an embodiment in this reading. This is an embodiment of connection to a higher power, connection to forces greater than us, that not only work outside of us, but work within us, because we are all a part of this. We cannot separate ourselves from the earth, which is why our consumption of the earth is a consumption of ourselves, because we are an extension of the earth. Therefore, these forces larger than us, greater than us, are also forces in the depths of us that we are all connected to at our deepest root. And so it's like getting past this sort of patriarchal takeover of the pursuit of wealth and power and colonization and consumption, putting consumption as the priority of everything that we do as humans, and like our modus operandi, our ways of living is entirely based on consumption. Like if you just think of, I just moved house recently, and when you move, you look at all of the frickin' trash and shit that you've accumulated. So like I'm right in here with you, and like nobody's better than anybody else in this. We all participate in this kind of consumer culture. And when you move, you really see it clearly out. Like, dang, I thought I was minimalist, and here I am with all this shit that I've accumulated and that I don't know what to do with other than put in a landfill somewhere. Our culture has created structures based on this kind of consumption, and so we all do it. And so I think this whole, people are talking about this pandemic being a reset. In a sense, I think it's a wake-up call for us to see the ways that we have become completely driven by consumption, and how we can drop into a deeper energy now and feel the deeper undercurrent of what's trying to be communicated through this whole thing. And again, this is collective, but it's also for you personally, Taurus. It's like, how are you participating personally? How is this personally affecting you, this society and like human drive that drives us to just consume, consume, consume? And then how can you drop into a deeper, perhaps more spiritual, more connected, more intuitive way of moving through the world? And you can't really ignore this, the way that this is being shown in this reading as masculine and feminine. And I'm not saying that there needs to be like, that masculinity is all bad and we need to completely get rid of masculinity. I'm saying that the ways that this expression, that masculinity has come to express itself in our societies, is like completely taking over everything. And it needs to, this fire that has gotten out of control needs to, it's like this needs to happen now. The emergence of this more, what we associate with feminine energy, which is an energy of like receptive, intuitive listening and knowing and moving from our feelings and our like intuitive gut responses and our connection to something larger than us, and like the intimate, not just connection with something larger than us, but the intimate connection with something larger than us, by recognizing that the things that are larger than us are actually also inside of us and trying to express themselves through us. If we can tune in, if we can attune to that and we can listen to that, I think that's where this whole journey leaves you. And then it's like you resurface. And now I'm seeing this Three of Cups as the triple goddess. Maiden, Mother, Crone. These archetypal feminine archetypes, Maiden, Mother, Crone, as like this journey of maturity and development, all working together. None is more important than the other. Notice that. There's this like resurfacing after this journey of the chariot. It takes you on like all of these surreal sort of Escher staircases and escalators, and then you end up resurfacing from the underworld with this recognition that the way we move forward is together. The way we move forward is less an individualist pursuit of power and more this pursuit of community and communal support and togetherness and cooperation. And like, not only that, it's not only like working together, but it's like, it's cups energy, which is again, more emotional, more intuitive, more feeling. It's like we come together now steeped in this intuitive, emotionally expressive. It's almost like these three are dancing in honor of the priestess. See that? Recognizing the kind of energy that is actually at our root, and then coming and that recognition transforming us from a society that's based on this to a society that is now openly participating in and celebrating and utilizing a completely different side of itself, a completely different side of human expression for most of us in Western culture. And again, yes, this is very much larger collective energy, but how is that? How would it shift you, Taurus, to move from a place that is very much fueled in this way to a place that is based in this kind of energy? I think that's what this reading is asking you. and much more clarifying, I think, for those of you who watched the global pandemic reading as to why the King of Pentacles is your guide. Because look, he is about to consume the earth. And it's okay to consume the earth when you recognize that you are a creature of the earth. See that? This like goat, stag, deer being recognizes itself as an animal, as a creature of the earth. And that kind of recognition means that you live in harmony with the earth and you only consume as much as you need rather than consuming absolutely everything almost compulsively. And essentially killing the planet you come from and therefore killing yourself, you know? I now understand why this is your guide through this pandemic, Taurus. And perhaps you are someone who is in a position to advocate more and more and more for this kind of way of life moving forward. And perhaps that's why we are connecting in this reading. And if you don't think you are, maybe this reading is asking you to question that. Okay, this is a long one. Let's wrap up this half of the reading with a card from the Botanical Tarot by Kevin J. Stanton. So here's the deal with these cards. I've been using them as part of a spread that I did for the new moon in Aries that we had recently. So that is a cycle that's going to be with us. That energy is going to be with us all through the month of April. So if you haven't already, find me on Instagram and check out the collective moon story reading that I did for that Aries new moon. Part of the imagery that came out of that was essentially like the societal collapse that we are all witnessing and experiencing. And I got this image of new growth sprouting out of the rubble. And so this deck is full of plants, as you can see. So I'm going to pull a card for you, Taurus, asking what new growth for you is sprouting out of the rubble of this destructive pandemic. Okay. What is the new growth for Taurus? Look, I've been waiting for this to come out. Death energy. Because this whole reading for you feels like a journey through the underworld. We have this death energy, and in the tarot, this does not, it very rarely talks towards literal death. Although, you know, I can't sugarcoat the realities that we're looking at with this pandemic. You know, I'm speaking from the United States, and many of us are looking over at Italy going, you know, seeing the reality of the destructive spread of this virus and the destruction it can wreak, the havoc it can wreak, I don't think needs to be sugarcoated at this time. I don't think this situation is without hope at all, but I don't think we can sugarcoat it. I just don't think we can afford to, okay? But this energy for you in this reading is coming through as this overall, like, it's like because remember, the new growth sprouting through the rubble, that's hope. That's the hope. So it's like there is hope, Taurus, in this underworld journey. Death energy is all about transformation. The beautiful thing that's being shown here is the pine cone energy. Pine cones endure through the dormancy of the winter, through the trials and the desolation and the seemingly lack of growth that winter energy brings. It's like this freeze over, which could be analogous to the pandemic. And yet the pine cones are filled with seeds for potential life, potential new trees. And so it's like this sort of dip down into the underworld is an incredibly transformative experience, this opportunity to completely transform our way of life, personally and collectively, because they're inseparable. Yes, we need the infrastructure of the collective to change in order to express this energy differently as individuals, but we also need to shift individually if collectively we are going to take on a different way of life that is no longer based in this kind of consumption, but rather tuned in to a deeper level of listening and moving as a community and for the community, in favor of the community. That's the transformation that is brewing at this time. Okay. So Taurus, listen, I'm going to take this into an extended reading, believe it or not. I know this was a really long one, but it was big. So this is just the first half of this reading. I'm now going to dive deeper using clarifying cards, using other oracle decks to really get into the specifics of each of this energy, especially for you, Taurus, since this was such a larger collective energy that came through. I want to get more specific now and really look at how this is playing out in your life. So we're going to do that in an extended reading. If you'd like to view that reading, stick around. At the end of this video, there will be a preview of that extended. If it seems to be resonant for your specific life situation and the things that you're moving through at this time, click the link in the description box below, and that will take you over to Patreon, where you can view this extended reading at any level of patronage. Okay, so Patreon is a community I've created for folks who've been following my work for some time, and if that's you and you know my work is resonating with you, Patreon may be something that you want to participate in, especially at this time where we are all seeking ways of connecting in community. Patreon is a way to connect with me deeper, and one of those ways is to dig into these monthly shift extended readings. Okay, so if you want to do that, click the link in the description box. It'll take you over to Patreon. Please read the full description that is over there so that you can know how Patreon works. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and we will dive deeper into this reading over there. All right, Taurus, thank you so much for tuning in at this time. Please note that I am extending my 10% off all personal readings offer that is usually reserved for Patreon patrons only. I'm extending that to absolutely everyone at this time. I recognize that many of us are going through financial hardship, so I'm hoping that 10% off will really help. And I am absolutely willing to work with you on payment plans if that's something that you need, because you are experiencing an income freeze at this time. So head over to my website, unseenhandshealing.com, where you can get all the info on that if you are seeking deeper guidance. All right, Taurus, let's take a look at the extended reading, and maybe I'll see you over there. Take care. She's beckoning you. She's calling you into this. Snakes represent Scorpio energy, that deep underworld transformative journey. The death card is associated with Scorpio energy, right? She calls you into those psychological depths to really look at this stuff, because she's calling, she's like, Taurus, we got work to do. We got big time work to do if we are going to change, transform the ways we move through the world. And it's like, she's got a message to tell you. She wants to tell you something. She being your own deeper intuitive knowing, she being the earth herself, she being the forces larger that are larger than us and also at work within us. Okay, that intuitive listening. Listen to what your intuitive depths are saying at this time, because there's a message for you to share.